sharks. If I've been to super training, is it okay if I come back? No?
I don't know, did you get kicked out?
Not yet. Rick Ting is his name. You gotta check and see if he's worthless or not.
Alright guys, we're live. We are live.
We've all been there, haven't we? Look at that, the bench. The bench is like kind of like not really interfering that much. It's the squats. The squats are really kicking your ass more so than anything else. Kind of cool. All right, this is Mark Bell from the Slanger Mansion today. We are doing a live power project. This is live power project number 2. My favorite number 2. Who does number 2 work for? Number 2 works for me many, many times every single day. And I'm here answering some questions for the power project. But in between that, my daughter has thrown me in this nice, beautiful apron. My daughter, Quinn. Thanks, Quinn. She doesn't want to talk. But she threw me in this nice apron because we have been filming, surprise, surprise, we have been filming stuff here at the Slinger Mansion for a cooking show. We have about 5 or 6 videos in the can. Look for that sometime in the summer. We'll be dropping those. We also have been doing some profiles on some of the lifters in the gym. Filipino Thunder, Fat Dan, been doing stuff with Cookie Callie and a few others. So look for that right here at Super Training, youtube.com/supertraining06. Okay, let the questions commence. Ready, go.
How have your brother's films influenced your career?
My brother is actually right over here. Come over here, Chris. Say hey. Hey. All right, get out of here. You bum. How have they influenced my career? Oh, hey. Oh, whoa. Shout out from Quinn Dale. Check out Sand Plops. Anyway, long story. You know, the Bigger, Stronger, Faster and Prescription Thugs have been a huge part of everything that has kind of gone down. In some weird way, they were separate from everything, and in some weird way, they've been a huge part of everything, because the reason why I'd say that, with Bigger, Stronger, Faster, there was no social media around. Bigger, Stronger, Faster is from so long ago that there was no Facebook media going on, there was no IG, and there was certainly no whatever the hell else is new out there that people are using, like Snapchat. So there was none of that going on at the time, and so the Bigger, Stronger, Faster wasn't really part of anything that I was creating with Slingshot or with Super Training Gym, because none of that stuff really existed quite yet. Super Training Gym was coming around, but Power Magazine wasn't around yet, and Slingshot wasn't around yet, and social media kind of grew a little bit thereafter. But having the background, having just, not so much even just the movies themselves, but being involved in the fitness industry for so long, my brothers and I, we always knew it was cool. We always knew that strength was going to lead to some big things for us, and we always knew that lifting heavy was the answer, powerlifting was the answer. We always knew that powerlifting was cool, and we always recognized that powerlifting was going to be something that people were going to really enjoy once they got a taste of it.
What does it take to train at your gym?
To train at my gym, you have to bring donuts. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is you have to be nice to Filipino Thunder because he is the gym manager. You have to bring a free hat or t-shirt for Fat Dan because he's fat and he's poor. And then you have to tell Silent Mike how good looking he is upon entry. And you'll have to tell me that I'm looking younger and stronger every day. Those are kind of some of the requirements, again, in the Super Training Gym. But on a more serious note, the gym is free. If you can find us, if you can find our email address, and you have the guts to come into Super Training Gym, that's pretty much that simple. Every Sunday is an open gym format where we allow people to come into the gym and check it out and see if it fits their schedule, see if it fits our schedule, and see if it's something that works well for them. So hit us up with an email if you can find an email. Sundays We're open pretty much from around 11 o'clock for visitors, 11 to about 12, 11 to 1, somewhere in that range. Hit us up, and we'll see if you make the cut.
Hey, from Vegas Rose 666, even at your lowest point, what kept you driving towards your goals and ultimately success?
I've always kind of been somebody who's just forged forward with the blinders on. I've never really worried about what was in front of me. I was always just running and chasing stuff and didn't really know what I was running or chasing after necessarily. We always say, Silent Mike has a saying that his basketball coach shared with him, and I think it's something that rings true for a lot of people, is you're sacrificing for the unknown. You're putting forth the effort, you're working your ass off for stuff that you don't know what the reward is going to be when you come out the other end. But really, we're just trying to hustle and just trying to work hard, and you don't know what's gonna happen. And so that's kind of why I've been able to continue to work towards goals, because I'll set a goal and I'll just work towards it, and I'm not really thinking about all the stuff in between. I'm just trying to think about that particular goal. Highs and lows, I've always managed pretty good by being this way, being even keel. If you respond too much to the highs and respond too much to the lows, you end up bouncing up and down a lot. And so that's why somebody may tell me something and I just act like it doesn't mean anything, whether it's highly impactful and it's really positive, or whether it's highly impactful and it's really negative. I try not to overreact either way. Try to just stay even keel as much as I possibly can. Even though my emotions may take me one way or the other, I try to just kind of keep it all even and just keep plowing forward.
Jimmy Serna asked, how important are testosterone levels in making strength gains for guys 40 years and older?
That I don't know. I don't know much about how important they are. I would imagine that testosterone levels are hugely important, since people that have higher levels or people that take testosterone replacement are normally stronger than those that don't. But I don't really know in terms of the actual blood levels. I don't know the science behind any of that, so you'd have to ask somebody more knowledgeable than myself. Somebody like Stan the Rhino Efforting might know a thing or two about that.
Speaking of Stan the Rhino, Tobias Marshott asked, will you ever compete in bodybuilding?
Will I ever compete in bodybuilding?
Will you?
I certainly will not ever compete in bodybuilding. I've never even been to a bodybuilding show, and just like the streaks in my underwear, I would like to have that continue for years to come. Speaking of Stan the Rhino Efforting, make sure you check out his YouTube channel. Rhino is killing it. He's got Rhino rants going. Stan has these 10, 15-minute rants that he's been going on lately, and they're awesome. So make sure you check out his YouTubes. I think it's just Stan Efforting.
Hey, are touch and go deadlifts better than dead stop deadlifts? Do dead stop deadlifts build more explosiveness?
Oh my God. So a lot of times in training, the things that you're going after, they work a little opposite of the way that you would think. A touch and go deadlift, as long as you're not bouncing the weights off the ground, do not bounce the weights off the ground. Don't use bumper plates and bounce the weights off the ground. I repeat, do not do that. Make sure that you're staying tight and make sure you're keeping everything set. A touch and go style deadlift is going to keep the time under tension. The strength time continuum will not be broken up. The time under tension is going to be there for sets of 3 and sets of 5. And so therefore, that'll build muscle mass, and that'll build strength, and that'll both build hypertrophy, which will make you bigger, and it will also help with explosive power. The dead stop pulls are highly beneficial as well, but if you're just kind of ripping into those and using poor form, and you're trying to really rip the weights off the ground, you're yanking on the barbell, then they won't be that effective. So either style that you use can be fine. They're both highly beneficial. They're both going to serve similar purposes. One isn't going to do anything more extra than the other. I think there's a time and place to utilize both. I will say with touch and go that you get it's a little bit misleading. If somebody says I did 675 for a triple, well, you would think that would automatically equal out to a 725 pull or 735 pull, but it doesn't, because when you do touch and go, each rep that you do, the bar is a little bit more bent, and you're in a better position than if you had just pulled the weight straight off the floor. And so they're misleading. Those 3 reps that you did, it could have just been a single. The stop and go sometimes is a little bit harder for some athletes, but they're about the same. Just make sure that your form is intact, and make sure you're not ever yanking on the bar, and make sure you're not getting severely rounded over in the lower back. And lastly, make sure that your hips are lower than your shoulders on all repetitions.
Do you think it's better to fire yourself up for a max lift or calm yourself down? Is this perhaps different for everyone?
I like to get fired up. I like to get into it. I like to crank some music. You know, some people say, oh, you know, don't take a pre-workout and don't pick your favorite song and these different things. I like to do that sometimes. I like to, the only way to get out of your own head is to lose your mind. That's the best way to do it. You got to kind of get out of your own head. You have to go to a different place. I have to think about fucking people dying. I got to think about tragic shit sometimes to get myself in the right place, to do the lift the right way, because I already know the technique. I've been doing it for years. There's not going to be a cue that's going to help me. There's not going to be anything else that's going to help me really for that lift other than just being inspired and being as fired up as possible and really talking myself into making the lift, and almost even more so talking myself out of being doubtful that I'll miss the lift. That's probably the hardest part of the whole thing.
Billy Youssef asks, do you think powerlifting will ever become as popular as CrossFit in the future, and do you consider yourself as an ambassador for powerlifting? And this is something that a lot of people are kind of interested in, you know, what can be made of powerlifting. You've got people like Gracie V, people that are trying to bring money into the sport. What do you think about it?
I do not see powerlifting ever really reaching the masses the way that CrossFit has. CrossFit has a real structure to it, and it has a real foundation to it that's very strong and powerful. And they created a culture, a cult culture of people that are very, very protective of CrossFit itself. As much as bodybuilders and powerlifters and other people will bash CrossFit, the CrossFit community just stays tight within themselves, and you don't really hear them externally voicing their opinion about powerlifters or bodybuilders too much, because they don't care, because their sport is advancing at a much faster rate than any other strength sports can keep up with, even strongman. And so I think that powerlifting, unfortunately, I don't think it will ever reach the status of something like CrossFit. But I think that's fine. I think, you know, powerlifting for me has always been kind of a niche thing. It's always been a fun hobby / sport / whatever the hell you want to call it. It's been a form of self-improvement for me and many other people. And I know for me, I feel like it's saved my life in many ways. It's made my life in many ways. And I don't think that in order to do that for other people and in order for people to have a great experience with powerlifting, that there's really any reason for it to be any more popular than it really is. I don't think that those external things of it being publicized more, of it being on more TV, and it being, or just being on TV in general, or it being in more magazines and things of that nature, I don't think that'll really help with much of anything in terms of the sport, except for maybe some people having their eyes on the sport and some maybe sponsors coming in and stuff. But again, using strongman is kind of plastered all over the place, and they have many of the same problems, if not more problems than powerlifting does. It's a less popular sport, not a more popular sport than powerlifting is. So for powerlifting to continue to grow the way it is, I'm excited about it. I like the way that it's growing, and I like that more people are participating in it. I think that's the real key, and that's the real answer. Things like what Bryce Lewis is doing, I think, is somewhat revolutionary, even though it's been a tough thing for him to really get going. Him starting these online powerlifting meets is a really, really cool thing to see somebody do, and hopefully that takes off a little bit more, and hopefully there's other interests and avenues of strength to see that play off of it, not just straight up powerlifting. Maybe a thing gets pinged out into the universe and it says, all right, next Friday we want to see what everybody can do 500 pounds for in the deadlift. And you have everybody in the whole country, or not everybody in the whole country, but anyone who wants to participate, they all record their 500-pound deadlift for reps, and maybe somebody does 10, somebody does 30, and somebody does 60, and somebody does 90. You get some really crazy fucking numbers You set up a standard of rules, and I think stuff like that would get people really, really excited about strength in general, and it would help put more eyes on powerlifting.
From Cody Hudson.
What's up, Cody?
From both you and Chris over here. Advice on training after surgery.
Training after surgery. I have never had a surgery. You've had some surgeries.
Can you see me here, Money Maker Mike?
Let's see.
Yeah, I'll get it right here.
Nope.
That's good.
All right, so I had double hip replacement surgery, and the one thing that I thought was very, very important was getting back into the gym after the surgery. Now, I was always a power lifter my whole life. I lifted with this guy. I can't do those things anymore. So I think training after surgery is very important, but you're going to have to modify your training, and it's also going to depend on what kind of surgery you have. A lot of guys in super training have had a torn tricep. Boom, they come right back into powerlifting. It's not that big of a deal, right? They get it sewed up, they come back. With double hip replacement surgery, they're literally sawing through your femur bone and pounding metal into it. So, you know, it's a little bit different, but I have deadlifted 550 pounds with 2 fake hips.
Oh my God.
It's not that great of a deadlift, but it's not that bad of a deadlift for having 2 fake hips. If you go to Ed Cohn's Instagram, at Eddie Cohn, check him out. He just had his second hip replaced, and he's an animal. He still deadlifts like 600 pounds, 600 and something pounds with fake hips, and he'll probably go up over 7, maybe even more, who knows. So I think just like the main important thing is just get back in the gym after your surgery. Like I couldn't walk. I had double hip replacement surgery, could not walk for 12 weeks. I was on crutches, but every single day after the second week, I was in Gold's Gym and I was doing cardio. Now, yeah, you might ask how I was doing cardio. Well, instead of using crutches to walk, I would hold myself up on the treadmill, and I would just walk, 1 mile an hour, and I would go for 20 minutes, and then I'd leave the gym. And that's all I could do for the day. But it kept me going, it kept me moving, and I would just try to walk as much, even with my crutches, as I could to try to get back. So I think it's just important to get yourself back in the game.
A lot of times also after a surgery, surgery is so much different than just coming off of a random injury. A lot of times after surgery, once the doctors kind of give you the go-ahead, a lot of times you're ready to kind of get back in the game. So just make sure that you're waiting long enough for everything to heal properly, and waiting long enough to hear back from your doctors on if it's okay, if you can go back and train. I've seen some pretty brutal injuries in my gym before, and some people that have had successful surgeries that came out of those surgeries, they came back in the gym and they just started resuming training just as if they took time off. It was almost regardless of the surgery itself. I'm not saying you want to go in blindly, but if the pain has subsided, you could probably just get back to your regular scheduled training. Just take your time in regaining that strength back and realize that you're starting over with kind of a new set of rules, and you have to kind of literally start over for a little while.
Hey, this guy's name is half lion, half eagle, and he wants to know, he says, be honest, Michael Trend called you out, and then after your response, he got shook up, deleted the post, and asked you to squash the beef, ?
Squash the beef? That sounds disgusting. Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I won. I don't know. I don't know what happened with that. He said some stuff. I said some stuff back, and then he got sad, and then that happened. I don't know.
Power Player CP wants to know: do you shave or wax?
Oh my God, that's very private. But I wax.
This is really confusing because I have to think about it myself. Fitness for noners, he says, at bench lockout, where do your elbows point? To the side or ahead?
At bench lockout?
Bench lockout, they would be.
I don't have to watch my. Well.
So kind of to the side?
To the side of where? To the head of what?
I think he's saying, do they point straight ahead, like your knees are pointing ahead?
Well, yeah, okay, so I get what he's saying, because we kind of teach that you flare the elbow out a little bit as you're coming upward in the bench press. Yeah, I mean, your elbow's going to be slightly to the side, but more than likely, it's not going to be too much to the side. Some people are able to do some weird shit with their shoulders, but I don't advise that you twist so much that the thumbs kind of come almost downward. I've seen some people lift like that, and usually that's from people that are like double jointed and stuff. So just kind of have the elbows. You want to start, the way that you start should be the way that you start is going to be indicative of the way that you're going to be able to finish those weights. So the same way that you start, make sure you lock the triceps in, make sure you get the triceps underneath the weights before you ever even start, And then once you start, make sure you're kind of finishing in that same starting position.
This guy, James Word Life, this is a good question I'll probably end it on. You spend a lot of time working with guys who are already pretty jacked and tan or fat, who can already put up good numbers based on body type alone. On top of solid training and diet, is there anything you would suggest for skinny guys like myself to catch up to the bigger guys? For example, more hypertrophy work incorporated?
Yeah, so with the advantage of being thin is that you can actually look jacked fairly quickly, especially for kind of longer, leaner body types. They can, with just some gain in muscle mass, you can look a lot bigger than even what your actual size is, if that makes any sense. But I think you guys probably know what I'm talking about. You might know someone who's, between 5'11" and 6'1" or so, who has a fairly lean body type. Once they start lifting and put on a little bit of muscle, as long as they stay lean, then they look pretty big a lot of times when they flex their arm. A lot of times because the arm has a nice peak to it, has a nice shape to it. But you're going to want to squat, bench, and deadlift. The answers are always the same, whether you're hurt or whether you're feeling old or whether you're feeling like you're too fat or whether you're feeling like you're too skinny or whether you're feeling like you're not jacked enough. The answer is always the same. The answer is always power lifting. You got to bench press, you got to squat, and you got to deadlift. Based off of those 3 lifts, bench, squat, deadlift, we're going to pick 2 or 3 exercises for each one of those 3 lifts. Now we're dealing with about 6 total exercises, right? About 2 exercises per lift that are going to help increase those lifts. Pick 2 exercises for the squat, 2 exercises for the deadlift, and pick 2 exercises for the bench press that are going to help improve and increase those lifts. Over a period of time, you will continue to get stronger. As you get stronger, you will continue to get bigger. So if you're skinny and you're feeling like a wimp, hit up some powerlifting. That's all the time we have for today. Strength is never a weakness. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you put in a shitload of comments at the bottom. Say whatever you want. Tell us what you want to see next. And that is it from Super Training Gym.